I'll start again.
All good.
So I joined that team. That was the job, and my job was to basically see that how I can make it better in agile way. So started observing the team, that how the team is working across, and how they're working, how their value stream works, how their flow works, what kind of work they are doing. So over a period of time, while working with them as a facilitator, as a servant leader, I realized that team is actually awesome. Each and every person in that team is individually, SME in their own area, like they're working amazing stuff. So what makes me wonder was that then why that reputation? It's just because some matrix is giving a different story. Is it their fault? Like when system is not giving them enough, power to work the way they want to work? Because what I saw that, they most of the work what they were doing, it was influenced or probably dependent on someone outside their team's influence. Might be some reviews happening from Germany, or some because their work is pretty unique, so every time they need to deploy, they have to spin up a new instance, which means infrastructure dependency. So pretty interesting. If you see from the leader's point of view, they always say this team is bad, people are bad, they are not a good team, they're a lazy team, they're not working well. But if you actually go in depth and say that each and every person is amazing, so just think from the point of view that they're doing their work their ass off, but they're getting the reputation of a different kind of a situation. So that problem statement, that how we can make this view a different view, and how we can work from the matrix which generally a standard agile practices provides you. And ironically, agile sometimes is synonym with Scrum, and Scrum gives you very specific metrics, which are definitely awesome, but very much related to the team itself, that what's the velocity looks like, how the team is committing and delivering stuff. So I took that problem statement at my heart and said that, can we do something about it? And can we just see that how we can actually view the system as a whole rather than just a team, and see what opportunities we can get through that. I would also like to mention that, this problem statement was thought through. I created a hypothesis, but I have a group of, lean practitioners and enthusiasts, which is kind of, I'm connected with them from last 7-8 years. And we actually meet every, fortnight, or try to meet at least once a month since then, to talk about different problem statements, talk about that, what we can do better. We just bring our problem statements and we just talk and brainstorm around that. So I actually took this problem statement back to them and said that, okay, this is something what I'm thinking. Can we do something about it? Everyone was very enthusiastic about it, and we started on that journey. So that's how this whole framework, which is called SCAPE, which we are here for, actually got incepted. So what exactly that does, we are going to talk about it, and it's pretty simple yet complex in understanding for first time, but I'll try my best to basically talk about that, and we'll open up for questions, if any, for that anytime. So moving to the next one, SCAPE. Now these slides are pretty data oriented, I would say a lot of arts and nothing, it's pure, but I'll try to make it as interactive as possible. So when we talk about SCAPE, SCAPE is a short word for system capability and predictability evaluation. So over a period of time, we started with certain, thought processes, but eventually now we have converted that into a kind of a framework which can be used by community now, if they want to. So it's open source, we may want to call that, but it's pretty simple. So the way it works is, the idea is to basically have a kind of a litmus test to see that how customer focused this team is, how customer centric against that fitness criteria which customer provides to the system, what they need to provide, and that's the outcomes on. So it's no more about a team as such, it's about a bigger system where this team is operating within. So why do you want to use SCAPE? As I said, it's about comparing or evaluating or baselining against the customer fitness criteria. And if you apply this, it gives you a lot of patterns, indicators, and opportunities where you can actually improve your system. That might be in terms of continuous improvement, or that might be in terms of, opportunities which you can trade off, use different levers around it. And lastly, this is purely fact-based evaluation tool. It lives on data. So there's no opinion around it that I thought or I think, nothing. Whatever data is in the system, this whole framework works on that. So I like the statement that Scape thrives on fit for purpose customer value. So we'll talk a bit more about that in the next one. So customer value, I think value definition is pretty standard across, but in this context, how we want to define customer value is probably something I would like to talk about in 2 minutes. So in this context, when we talk about customer value, so customer value is a product or a service. It creates only value when it's been delivered to the customer within agreed or expected timeline, quantity, and quality. And when I say these three words, it means that if you are overserving the customer, then also probably customer is not happy. Underserving is definitely is a lack of service. So it actually has to be very fit for purpose. And to make it fit for purpose, we need to have the understanding of what customer needs. So again, we're not talking about sprints. We're talking about, this is my system and what exactly customer needs from this system. So everything is customer oriented within this framework point of view. So obviously, if you miss or if you reduce any of these values within timeline, quantity, and quality, the business impact is there, and it will reduce customer value to the lower level. So this customer value is a core piece of this whole Scape. All right, enough of suspense building, I would say. So this is more of an example, a very layman example, to basically define that what customer value we are talking about and how over and underserved works in general. And quickly after that, we'll move to the knowledge industry, which is us, that how we can do on the work, the kind of work what we do. So in the given example, if I say I put the customer expectations in the left for a pizza shop or pizza need, where the customer wants a classic margherita pizza, which should be or needs to be delivered within 30 minutes with a limited costing, as $5. Now, if I compare three different, pizza centers or pizza shops, the first one is over serving on the toppings because they offer 5 toppings, but they're under serving on the time and the cost. So this particular pizza anytime is mostly underserving business for them, for the customer. The second one is over serving on the type of pizza on toppings and the delivery time, because we need it in 30 minutes. They're over serving by providing it in 20 minutes, but cost is more. So still not fit for purpose probably for most of the requirements what have been given. So it's mostly over serving. But if we talk about the last one, it actually fits all the purposes or all the fitness criteria which customers want. And it's pretty simple. So for me, that's Domino's, by the way. So it's like, when you ask for such a simple kind of lunch, you don't go anywhere else, but you know that delivered needs to happen 30 minutes. Domino's is my place to go. That's for me. So this basically gives a kind of a view that what kind of customer expectations we are looking towards and how we are mapping and baselining the outcomes against that. But is this an analysis? Answer is no. So we're going into that very quickly after this. So introducing Scape. Now, when I say introducing Scape, that's obviously on the knowledge industry, IT, that how we want to put this layer or evaluation across the kind of work what we are doing. So I'll try to basically, capture both worlds, which is the operations and which the Scrum team says well. So at least so that we get the flavor that how it can be used in different contexts. So this is an example of operations team, and Scape in general touches the system on 2 parts. One is capability, another one is predictability. So we'll talk about both one by one, but to start with, if we talk about capability, we can just pick that as first. So what we are showcasing it over here is that there is a team who is an operations team, lives and breathes incidents day in, day out for their as a job. So the type of work, what they basically do is P1, P2, P3, P4. When we talk about customer fitness criteria, that has been termed as SLA over here, which is for P1, it's 1 hour, P2 is 4, P3 is 24, and for P4, it's 120 hours. So when we talk about analysis, what we did that we actually took some data points so that we can get the patterns emerged. So we went back for 6 months and see that in last 6 months, how exactly the capability of this team looks like. So the data points I've mentioned over there is like 45 P1, 78 P2s, 98 P4s, and so on. So we took the average hours for individual type of work of on the basis of last 6 months of data set. And the realization was that although the SLA for P1 is 1 hour, but average, what we are looking at, factual data coming out from system is around 9.7 hours, which means that the gap percent between average versus SLA is around 870%. Hence, this was deemed quickly as underserving, because if customer wants in by 1 hour and average hours is 9.7, it's a huge gap from the perspective of serving to the customer. But at the same time, if we talk about P4s, the realization was that against 120 hours of SLA, team is hitting 47 hours as an average. So it was a kind of an eye opener for us as well as the leader or delivery manager, where this is like, okay, we know that we are missing on P1s every time and probably most of the times, but this data is probably giving them some kind of different understanding that there might be certain levers which can be pulled and pushed. And what I mean is that kind of conversations which got started after this discussion only on capability was that, can we do something about moving some additional capacity for P1, and we are okay for P4s to get delayed, because I can see that people are picking P4s. Reasons might be anything, like it might be people find P4s easy, people finds P1 more difficult, or whatever the case is, more demanding. But from the business and customer point of view, they are way beyond the customer expectations or way below the customer expectations. So this data actually triggered a lot of conversations on how part of it. But analysis of scale, actually this capability is giving them that kind of a view. So now if you talk about predictability, I'll give you an analogy over here to make it understand a bit more clear. So let's assume that we say that my average hours are 9.7, and we go back to the customer and say that no matter what you do, we can't reduce that time. It's the minimum time we have to take. And somehow customer agrees that, okay, fine, from now onwards your SLA is 9.7 hours, that's okay. But can you give a customer a guarantee that although they have changed to the average time, which is 9.7 over here, can you consistently deliver within time frame? Answer might be no, because it's average. So from the predictability point of view, what Scape does, it basically picks up the 98th percentile of data, like from the data set, it takes 98th percentile that what exactly the time has been taken at that level, at 98th percentile level. Generally questions comes back that why not another 2%? So from the data science point of view, from the research point of view, 2% are deemed as exceptions. So from the analysis point of view, we generally take 98th percentile. Can we reduce to the 90th? Yes, but that again, customer's fitness criteria, not mine. So from the example and from the starting point of view, we talk about 98th percentile, and in this case, the 98th percentile ticket took 54 hours, which means the deviation between average, which is 9.7, versus 90th percentile is again 457%. That means neither this team is predictable nor capable from the P1 point of view, which is probably the biggest revenue impacting or business impacting incidents happens in any of the organizations. And when you see others, you get those levers, where to pull, what to pull, and how part starts getting triggered over there. I have a case study later on that how it needs to be done, but that's again how can be done in multiple ways. But this Scape is more about analyzing and giving that mirror of that system, that how system is working against capability and predictability. I hope that is making sense. I will open for questions just after one more slide, because that slide is more around Scrum teams, because I too get this question very often, that it looks amazing on operations, but how exactly it will look on Scrum team. So I've tried creating that view as well. All right, so Scape on Scrum teams. Generally, the way I have seen questions coming across are that Scape looks good on operations, but on Scrum we have a specific 10 days of sprint cycle or 2 weeks of sprint cycle. So we don't have any customer engagement because that's been set by organization. But for me, that itself becomes an SLA. So if you see, like I have put within a given example, that if an organization or a squad or a system is working on 2 weeks of sprint, that makes the SLA 10 days, because from the Scrum point of view as well, from the sprint point of view as well, you have sprint goals, you have to achieve whatever you have picked up, you commit to deliver that within a sprint time frame, which means any ticket you pick or any story you pick as a part of ideal sprint, it has to be finished in 10 days. So question is, are we doing that? So if you see the top table, that's the actual data from one of these squads. What we did, SLA sprint days 10, issue count 6 months data, which comes across 145 tasks and user stories, and average lead time was 7. That means the average versus SLA gap is -30. That means it's fit for purpose. Do I need to touch this team at greater length if I have something else to work on? Possibly no. Lever again. But is this team predictable? So when we did the Scape analysis for this particular team, we realized that it's very unpredictable. And we actually did the root cause analysis, because I was working closely with the PO over there. We realized the same factors, that we are dependent on infrastructure, we are dependent on certain kind of reviews. So we made those risks or the issues or impediments open to the leadership, that these are the problems why we are facing. So if we can solve these, we can make it more predictable. Otherwise, this is the best what we can do, as an example. So a lot of good conversations started from there. And the second table which you see, that is again a copy paste of top, but it was just created to serve the purpose that if we have another team where the capability and predictability are both low, then it gives you a clear-cut understanding that which teams to prioritize on and which area to prioritize on. So I have used, not only me for that matter, I have used the Scape analysis in a lot of areas, talking to a lot of leaders, showing them the mirror. I have seen that it's 100% kind of success for me to bring them along to the journey, because they see the problems forefront and start asking questions. And once they start asking questions, that means they're already buying that. They're already on the start of the path of journey to change. So I have used it as a multiple tool level, where like either in the team while working with them, or when I'm starting to try to start transformation. So that's the crux of it. Before I go to how, in very nutshell, I'll probably take a pause and open for the questions.
I have one, but before that, I know a couple of coaches have joined in as well. Any thoughts, any questions? Cool. I was curious about the levers you found from a Scrum team perspective, KJ, with respect to based on whether they are, what if they are underserving from a capability perspective in comparison to predictability? What potentially were the levers in play in that scenario?
So in Scrum teams, sometimes what happens, but somehow my sharing got stopped. Let me try it again. Sorry for that. Is the screen visible again? Okay, cool.
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah. So let me repeat the question, that are we trying to understand that
what
if the
potential
capability is
levers,
good.
what potential levers were used in this scenario potentially on whether it was a capability or predictability, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So when you talk about capability in the first instance, as an example over here, it was fit for purpose from the point of view of, the SLA, which is 10 days. But the question comes across is that, is it enough if you really want to go further down on that? So is, 7 days as an average lead time or cycle time is good enough for the product owner? Is it serving the purpose? Can we be more faster? So we may not start with the liver because it works absolutely okay. Like, I don't want to touch a team which is doing really good as a coach. I will only use it as a pull mechanism whenever they need me. But if the need of the PO or the system is to go more faster, then I will change the SLA to reduce number, and the whole data is going to change automatically, because the baselining is 10 over here. But let's say tomorrow PO comes back and say that, no, my SLA should be 5. Then suddenly this becomes almost 20 to 30% underserving with the same data. And then you have to do all the how part levers, do the root cause analysis, how exactly, the outliers are looking like, why they are taking more than 5 days, what can we do to improve them? Are these agile practices which can improve that speed, or are they some outside dependencies which needs to be improved upon? So suddenly the lever starts emerging when the problem statement becomes bigger. So as I said, that it's against customer fitness criteria. I don't want to overserve the customer as well if my team is doing well. So if I go back to PO and say, oh, the average lead time is 7, we should make it 5. And PO says, no, I'm happy. There's no lever to pull. But if in the example below, if average lead time is 15, then I think I don't need to even tell PO, because it's clear visible that spillovers are inevitable over here, as an example. So guys, let's do RCA. So that is a trigger of the conversations, which helps a lot. Does that make sense, Shakti?
Yeah, it does. Thanks, KJ.
Any other questions before I move on?
All good.
Oh, cool, perfect. So let me make it big again. All right. So how of scape? Now, what we have talked about looks pretty complex, I believe, or not, I don't know. But, idea was to show that how simple is this, with respect to data collection. So data collection might be a tedious task depending upon which tool, which system any organization or a team is using from the historical data point of view. But I have got 2 examples which I have used, and it's pretty simple. So first one is any team who uses Jira as an example. It's like a thing of minutes, if I may say, to get this data, on the Excel sheet. So people who knows how Jira works, I think this is probably one of the crucial and important chart which is available for Kanban teams or even for Scrum teams. So idea over here is that the way I take data for 98th percentile or even the average cycle time using this chart. So what in this example, if I say what I have done past 3 months for the data set, I have clicked on all the statuses which is deemed as in progress, which means not ready or not done, just to see that how much cycle time this particular team is providing. And once you put this across, after that data is pretty easy to catch. 1 week, 4 days, 9 hours is your average lead time, which can be picked up from the capability point of view. Pretty simple and automated. But if you talk about 98th percentile, that's a bit of the manual job. So what I generally do where I have Jira is 170 issues, what's the 90th percent number for that? So as an example, I'll probably say 166 tickets will come into the 90th percentile data set. So what I generally do, I basically remove the top 2% of the tickets and take the 98th ticket in the 90th percent ticket in the given data set to see what's the time for 90th percentile. So in this example, the red mark The time is 8 weeks, 5 days, 1 hour, 44 minutes. So what it means is, in the given data set, the capability is 11 days, but 98th percentile is almost 8 weeks and 5 days, which means almost 61 days. So gap is huge. The conversations, the way it happens is that, okay, now can we start looking on all the outliers to see that what exactly those outliers are there for? Why we cannot fix those outliers faster? Can we do some kind of root cause analysis? So it's pretty simple mechanism, but yet very powerful. Now, the other question comes that because for operations, they generally people don't use Jira. So they use ServiceNow as an example, where you don't have this kind of visibility on data set. Things are still pretty simple. They are not very difficult. So it's a manual work, definitely. I'll show you that. So this is the extraction of one of the reports. So what we are saying is that whenever we pick up a ticket, in example, in ServiceNow from, from the backlog, I would say from the to-do tickets to when they pick up, there is a status change over there. And you can actually get the time for that particular status change when the ticket is moved to in progress. So this timestamp states that, and when you close the ticket, this timestamps showcase that. Getting a cycle time is just resolved minus in progress, and you get the cycle time over here. And once you have this data, getting an average or a percentile is just a matter of a macro. So when we actually got through these mechanisms, it sounds pretty simple, pretty logical, pretty common sense ways. But we have again seen the value of this data, showcase as analysis again and again, showing it back to the leaders, and we never failed on that. So this is a very basic of how, but definitely it's a light version. So you can do this kind of analysis not only on capability from the cycle time or from the point of view of predictability. It can be extended to quality, defects, code coverage, or whatnot. What you only need is the customer fitness criteria, that what customer needs, and the data can again give you the knowledge and understanding that how exactly that's deemed fit against that criteria. All right, so quickly on case study, this is pretty much same what we have discussed, but it was a good one. So I just thought probably, it will give a complete context end to end, that how we worked upon, probably give a context at how this can be helpful in general. So this case study is of a team, again, within where I have worked closely with last year. It was more around a business engagement team, and the scope of this team was basically, it was a front door, team for the whole portfolio. So whatever work comes in, they have to come via this team, and they basically deflect the work after analysis and talking to the businesses that which team can pick this up within the portfolio. It can be operations, it can be product, it can be feature, and whatnot. And as a part of this scope, this team was responsible for some configuration items as well. So it was a Kanban team. It was not a Scrum team. So, but these are the two different scope pieces of this particular team. So problem statement, what we worked upon this was from the tribe lead was that this team gets a lot of escalation, while they're working. So that lot of, the satisfaction score is pretty poor over here from the customer point of view. So we are not talking about any agile, we are not talking about any other stuff, but it's all about the business problem statement, what we want to solve on. And myself, tribe lead, and delivery manager of this particular team, who was a product owner named as. So we sat together, we said that, okay, what can we do? So I proposed, again, did the scape analysis myself for this team. And we did discuss that what should be the customer criteria from your perspective. Can you please explain so that we can do some analysis on that? The first thing what we found, that they don't have an SLA as a operations team. That was the first lever, and that was the first thought process when we went back to the leadership and say that you are saying that a lot of escalations are coming in, but they don't have an SLA. So either set an SLA or back the team from against escalations, because if we are not committing to an SLA, then there should not be an escalation. So that conversation went actually very well, because officially they don't have an SLA, but with this analysis coming into place, they said that, okay, it's a good time for us to set an SLE, which is not an agreement, but service level expectation. And as a team, as a group, we said that, okay, we will going to analyze this whole, team or system on the basis of 10 days per ticket as an SLA. So we did the data set of last 6 months, 279, average lead time came as 19, 90th percentile was 136 days. So whereas the gap between the capability point of view, it was 90% under serving, but the predictability was 616% unpredictable. And the legends, what you see below, is all set by the team, not by us, because we are the coaches. We need to ensure that we need to work on the customer criteria. So we actually had to sit down with the delivery manager and the tribe lead, saying that we want to analyze the team, how team system is working. Can you tell me what's acceptable to you? What acceptable to customer? So these legends got created while those discussions. So once we have this analysis, I think the inclination and the lever was pretty clear. Start working on the predictability part. And if you can solve the predictability and reduce the predictability down, the average cycle time is going to reduce automatically, because that's an average anyways. So that's how the analysis worked. But after that, it was all about how, where we actually get into the team, started working towards different experiments. So I have listed down those as well with some results later on. But analysis was a previous slide, not this one. So from the experiment point of view, the first one was definitely setting up that SLE of 10 days, because that was crucial. And as soon as that was being set up, now team understands that they need to work against that, or to ensure that nothing is going above and over and above that. So once they have that clarity, the experiment was pretty simple. The policy was created that anything which you think that is going to take more than 10 days, highlight as an impediment. And we have right people to solve it for you. We established right agile practices. We established the cadences of stand-ups, where we always talk about impediments. We also set up the agile practice of having a proper backlog refinement, ensuring that before the data comes in or the ticket comes, we pick the ticket in progress. We are going through the definition of ready to ensure that we are picking the right tickets. Until then, we are not starting our clock from the point of view of 10 days, because customer has not given us right information. So all these policies, all that practices were implemented as part of how. We also implemented WIP limits, because they didn't have any WIP limits and people used to work on multiple tickets at the same time. And WIP limit also helped them to work with the focus, with the quality, and on few tickets, so that the lead time or cycle time increases on that as well. So this experiments, or these these experiments actually went through for almost 3 months, and I have the results for that particular team. That before the experiment, when we started the transformation, the data was 19 days and 136 days from the predictability point of view. But after 3 months of transformation, from Feb till day before yesterday, I've taken the data out. The lead time capability is 3 days, 19 hours from 19 days. So improvement is huge, as 375% of improvement. We talk about throughput. Earlier, they used to do 1.3 tickets daily as a team average, but with the lead time capability efficiency, they can churn out almost 6 tickets on daily basis, which is fourfold of improvement over there. Predictability was 136 days. It has been reduced to 29 days. That means our 98% tickets are getting churned out in 29 days against 136 days. The percentage is still higher because it generally gets compared against the average. So from 3 days to 29 days, it's still a huge percentage. So I'll still keep it red so that we can improve further on that. But it was a huge difference after doing those experiments based on that analysis. Problem statement, escalations, they were long back again, I would say. Because if team is churning out such in a faster pace, there was no point of escalations. So customer score got improved, escalations got reduced to 0 almost. And that was kind of a success story and case study what we have presented back. So that's the power. Probably I should say that how the analysis starts, how we get the leaders into the journey of this transformation pretty easily based on factual data. And after that, it's all about how. And I'm sure, like, how is not easy, definitely, but there are a lot of frameworks and tools to get it implemented. So, yep, that was me, guys. Final takeaways is moreover selling of Scape, free of cost, I would say. So Scape is purely fact-based evaluation framework. Again, as I said, no opinions. It works uniquely in different systems because systems are unique. Some can be Scrum teams, some can be operations, and within operations, it can be different kind of uniquenesses. So for that, understanding has to be there that, cannot be implemented copy paste. We have to do analysis every time differently. And it provides a clear mirror of the system to stakeholders against the customer, customer fitness criteria, and provides opportunities for improvements, which has a direct impact on customer value. So, yep, that's pretty much all. One last thing is that I would really want to highlight that this is a tool, and you can find a lot more in-depth detail of what I have presented in the first link, which probably Shakti is going to share. It's open, read it, use it if it helps you in getting that. Open for community. It's all there on that particular website where all of my cohort basically contribute. So we all go there, we talk, we think, we discuss, and if something is there to contribute, we contribute back on this particular link. And remaining to are my details. If someone really wants to discuss how part of it in more detail, more than happy. Reach it to me anytime, any point of time. So that was me, guys.
Thank you very much, KJ. I was just looking at the statistics data, and I was telling what could be possible if every team start looking at things as a system rather than, just from the perspective of processes and cadences and ceremonies. I think that this was a fascinating experience for me. Any questions? I'm just curious to know, again, knowing there is quite a few agilists in the crowd. Are there any potential use cases coming to you or thinking to you as you are listening in, and any questions that is emerging for you?
For me, after a day at work, I think I need to watch the recording so I can go through it again and totally understand and think about it. I'm just feeling so tired at this end of the year, so apologies for that.
I thought I kept everyone speechless, Joe. That's all good.
Any thoughts? Any comments?
Hey, KJ, thanks. This was really insightful. I really love that. And, I like a bit of metrics as well. One thing that comes to my mind is that this is really very good if you're very passionate about this and you do this, right? How do you scale this? You have a set of teams, 1 or 5 or 10, versus how can we bring this idea of actual deep level of predictability as well as understanding of all the lean metrics overall to the wider scale that can go to 50 teams, 100 teams, 200 teams, and what are the challenges according to you that you could face?
Interesting question. So Anit, the way I see this is that when you talk about using the data for using the same data for different teams, then automation helps. Like you want to do scape analysis for multiple systems in the same fashion, then the steps, automation can help. But the idea of scape is to scale to do the system evaluation. So if you're talking about scaling a particular system at the bigger level, it can be possible. So I'll explain what I mean to say, what I mean by that. So let's say like Squad is part of a portfolio. So as a squad itself is a system. it has certain inputs, it has certain outputs, which they're providing to the customer fitness criteria. But now if you want to scale it to portfolio level, your input criteria and customer criteria changes. So you can actually evaluate a bigger system where squad is just a subsystem. But when we talk about the question you asked that, okay, I want to evaluate, I want to use Scape for 100 teams, 100 squads. So you're talking about 100 subsystems. So it has to be done uniquely for different teams, but definitely steps are, predictable. We can always automate that. Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. I'm just seeing a bit of a challenge for people's mindset to be able to use that and use that effectively in order to gain that perspective. But yeah, okay, got the answer though. So it makes sense now. Cool, thank you.
I think let me add one more comment, and this is probably one thing which I always talk when we're talking about metrics in any organization. That do you want the right metrics, or do you want the metrics which can be automated? So that's a question needs to be asked, when we are talking about these kind of analysis. If it deems fit for an analysis, if it's useful, then automation can be the second part. But if it's not useful, then there's no need to pick this up. So that totally depends upon how fit for purpose this analysis is for individual system too.
I agree. And if the answer is like, this is a good fit for purpose,
yep,
which clearly it seems,
absolutely.
How can we get maximum teams to leverage this? Because this is where the real customer value, you can get to see the insights.
Agree.
And then bring the reality in front of their faces and they look, this is where we are and what do you want to do about it, right? Absolutely. It's more about like, okay, if this is the right fit, then how can we bring it on the people on the journey to be able to make use of this is something will be very, very interesting, but totally get it. And thank you. I got the answer as well though.
Thank you.
AP, as you are sharing that, the metaphor that came is not many people wanted to look into the mirror, right? But people, once they want to look into the mirror and they buy into that, then they know what they need to do to change the shape and become more healthier. So yeah, anyway. Any last questions before we kind of wrap up so that you'll be able to get back sometime? If you'd like to stay back, I'm sure KJ would love to if you have any questions after this as I stop the recording now. Any final questions before that? Lani, I know that you have been quite interestingly listening quite a bit. So any thoughts?
I was just I'm a bit like Joe. I'm really intrigued by this. I think it's really interesting. I would like to digest it. It's something that I think will be useful outside of a technical environment. So I work in a law firm, and being able to demonstrate value and capability is something that's very powerful. So I feel like I need to reflect on it. And I've clicked on the link to Scape through Lean SQL. So I'm gonna do a bit of a review, and then I will connect if there's things that are or questions that I might have. But it was really interesting. So thank you.
That is awesome.
And anytime, and if I can be of help in making it a bit more better, I'm very passionate about that. So anytime.
Thank you.